Welcome to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio. I'm Scott, and we've got Shane and Paris in the house, and a special guest today, as we're going to be discussing all things guns. Our good friend Todd Nielsen from Nielsen Training and Consulting. Welcome back. We've had you on before. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me back on.
We appreciate having you here, and we know that there's going to be a lively discussion as we continue today because Paris has been plugging a argument, if you will, a lively debate as part of today's
likes conflict.
I like
Paris
conflict.
I saw the show.
Good. Okay. And what we're talking about is Todd's a Glock guy through and through, right? I wore my Glock shirt on purpose, right? So we'll go as far as we need to on that, but a lot of other things to talk about.
Absolutely. Well, guys, reminder, check out our sponsors. We've got a lot of them, and we love the products. We only promote the products that we really like. One of those ones is our good friends over at Blackbeard Fire Starters. Check them out because with our promo code, Prepper Talk, you can save 10% at checkout. So make sure you go check them out. I've got quite a few of their kits. They've got these fire ropes that are just fantastic, easy to light. And I'm really honestly partial. I'm a ferro guy. I love ferro rods. I feel like they spark every time. I never have a problem, but you can also always get one of their lighters, waterproof, really fantastic. So check them out. Blackbeard Fire Starters. They have all kinds of cool gear to help you keep your fire ready to start any time, but also stay warm, guys. Fire is one of the most important things because that's part of your shelter, part of your first line of defense against critters out in the wild, against death, against inclement weather. Like, it's just a fantastic thing to have. You need to have that skill in your quiver.
Fire is your defense against the dark arts.
Oh,
little Harry Potter in there for those.
Whatever.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were going to start talking about like the range is open, fire, commence fire, but
here we go.
Well, fire produces light, so light is the best defense against the dark.
Hey,
Sorry.
On that note, 2 weeks ago, I was out teaching a class, and we literally had 5 snowstorms in one day, and the sun came out in between all of them. So we had a burn barrel going. So that fire, it's very, very important to keep you all happy.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I'm excited to have you here today, Todd. We're going to talk guns. Let's jump into it because for most people that are listening, they've got some experience in and around firearms.
Yep.
Some of them it's limited, really, really limited. Others, they're going to be way more advanced. And so we want to talk to all those audiences, but one of the things I wanted to ask to lead off for today is getting the right training and knowing what people need. You guys do a lot of different trainings over at Nielsen, but you also have your other website that you guys do, BPMF, which is a new kind of training center.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about both and why you have so many different types of training and what we should be looking for as preppers?
So when it comes to training, there's so many different avenues that you can go down. Most of the stuff that you get from the Nielsen training side of stuff is really more of your day-to-day. This is how I defend. This is how I protect. These are some tactics, techniques, and procedures and everything that we do in order to be able to protect ourselves. On the BPMF side of things, and I'm pretty sure my partners will be okay with me saying this, but we're going to be moving a lot more of the BPMF type stuff over into Nielsen training, just for management and all that kind of stuff, doing the majority of it through Nielsen training rather than BPMF.
Okay.
And we've actually taken our whole base of operations from the training center there and moved it over to Ready Gunner up in Orem, and doing all of our classroom stuff there. And then we actually have the ability to do live fire training now over at Ready Gunner too.
Nice.
So,
and you also have, if I remember right, you also have a AR or virtual courses as well. Like we can go in and instead of shooting bullets, you're actually shooting a little laser gun on targets. Is that right?
Yeah. So we have a force option simulator. And the cool thing about that, it shoots laser beams.
Can you speak English with Forrest, bro? A force option simulator. Does anybody else? I mean, I'm sure there's guys out there like Paris, get up with the times. But I'm like, bro, there's got to be somebody out there that's like, Todd, I know it was English, but what? So
basically, we can put you through scenarios, and you can react, and we can actually modify the scenario based on what you're saying, what you're doing, and how you're acting. We can amp it up, or we can bring it back down. We can make them shoot or don't shoot. We have all those scenarios and everything that we can do right on our simulator that we now have over at Ready Gunner. And the other thing too is we have games basically that you can play that help you with your marksmanship skills, with your fundamental skills of reloading, fundamental skills of grip, stance, side alignment, trigger squeeze, all that kind of stuff, just to make it so that you're not spending right now for 9mm. If you get it for less than 24 cents a round, it's really, really cheap. And
buy double.
yeah, exactly. And dude, at 24 cents a round, that's a cool guy deal. The realities of that are like literally, I'd spend in the neighborhood of about 20,000 rounds of ammunition every year. Last year when I did my totals out, I only shot physically 13,000 rounds last year.
Only.
Yeah. Well, and that's just live rounds, but then to kind of give you an idea, each one of the green gas cans that we use, they're about 1,200 rounds, and I went through 16 of those, me personally.
Wow.
There you go.
So
That's awesome. So pause for a second. Harry Potter, do you need any other further explanations on what he said?
No, that was good. That was good. I
Okay.
appreciate that.
I know you were raised by your in-laws and they forced you into a cabinet underneath the stairs. I just don't want you to feel left out.
I know. I'm just like, I know this is English, but what do these words mean?
Well,
no,
I love it because not all of us know those things. So I'm glad you brought that up. But I'm
yeah,
I'm going to tease you forever now about Harry Potter.
Yeah, why not?
The truth is,
trust me, I'm calling him that from now on every time I see
Whoa,
him.
come on.
in my best Hagrid,
We have to do
you're
something
a
about
prepper. You're a prepper, Paris.
Yeah.
You're not a wizard, Harry. You're a prepper, Paris. Like, come on.
There we go. I mean, every month you put out, well, Eric puts it out, but every month you guys put out a training for what you're doing in that month. And you guys have got so many good classes that you're putting together. I just, to kind of go along with what you're asking, Scott, and I think this will help kind of guide the direction of the course. I think, I can sit and watch John Wick all day long and think that, oh, I could do that if I had a gun in my hand. But then when your muscle starts to move, your brain, it doesn't do the same thing your brain thinks it's supposed to do until you've practiced it enough times. Like, I just love coming, like, I've been to the couple of your, I try to go to every one of your concealed, you have a course where you do simulations for concealed carry simulations.
Yep.
And then you have your move and shoot where you're actually in motion. Like, okay, your target, you can't stand still. You got to be moving. Yeah. And it's so good because those skills, it's life. It's real life to me because you can't, you're not going to approach a bad guy or some bad guy approach you and you're like, just a moment, let me get my proper stance before I engage in a altercation with you. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to need to go and probably be running for cover at the same time that you're popping caps, right? And so I just appreciate the chance to practice that. Like, I don't know if other places do that kind of stuff, or if that's something that you just really realized is a necessity, or like, so I guess the question is, do you think other people are doing that? What are the different types of trainings like that you're doing, and why do you think that other people should be doing and engaging in?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and there's some really, really good instructors out there. But the harsh realities of all this is you're not going to be standing in a stagnant position when you get involved in this armed encounter. And your adversary is probably not going to be standing there taking your bullets either. I make the joke in just about every single class. Okay, I can sit here like this and be a perfect B-27 target and let somebody shoot at me. That's not reality. That's not what's going to happen. I'm going to be moving, and I'm going to be moving in multiple different patterns. I'm going to be moving to every position of advantage or position of cover that I can get to. And you got to know, read, and understand what that terrain looks like. And if you're not doing that on a daily basis, then you're already putting yourself behind, let alone the firearm skills.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you got to put a round into somebody's chest or put one into their ocular cranial vault, that's a whole different ball game under pressure with somebody.
Ocular cranial vault. Todd, what have I said
The
about
head
English?
space
that's
through the eyeball.
Well, that's how
Eyeballs in
you
the nose there,
avoid.
buddy.
That's how you avoid being censored on YouTube, right? You use that
Oh
kind
yeah,
of terminology,
yes,
right?
yeah, good idea. All right, thank
It's
you.
actually a medical term too. So
So that's a key point, Todd, because a lot of people will go to the range and they'll just stand in the static position and they'll fire down range. And that's fine. You need to have that as part of
Yeah.
your training.
Yeah.
But if that's all your training is, you're missing out on probably 3/4 of what an altercation really is about.
Yeah.
Not more.
Yeah, and literally the marksmanship stuff, that's all well and good, but the realities are your marksmanship skills have to be so good that you can do it at the drop of a hat at any time in any location with whatever you're wearing. You should be able to do that at any time without even thinking about it. The decision-making process of completing that trigger pull or not, all that stuff that's the stuff that needs to be happening at that moment in time, you know, and moving to that position of advantage, moving to that position of cover, getting yourself to a place where you're not going to get hit by bullets. That's kind of important. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I loved one of the scenarios you ran. One of the times was you put like a barrier in the class in the setting.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, I'm going to use it. I've knelt down. I remember you telling me like you were like the first person to use the barrier.
You were the only person that used the barrier.
I'm like, I'm not going to get shot. It was fun. So anyways, I don't know what else. I just appreciate the way you run your classes because they feel like more of a real life scenario.
Yeah.
And that's important to practice that way. And if you got a place where they have real life scenarios, if you're listening and there's a gun shop or a range where they will run those, do them, join them, get involved with it because it's a whole different kind of training. And it's really cool, I think.
Adds a little bit of level of stress to it as well, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. And there's a bunch of IDPA or IPSC, any of those training organizations that are out there. If you have one of those in your area and they have a competition, go shoot it. Number one, you're going to meet some really, really cool people. And number two, you're going to get to test out your equipment to make sure that it actually works the way that it's supposed to. And that's a huge part right there in and of itself is making sure that your equipment works.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
You know, people ask me, hey, how come your equipment positions and, you know, where your magazines are, where your knife is, where your the position of your gun and all that other stuff that sits on your belt, how come that hasn't changed in like 15 years? Because it works in that position regardless of what it is I'm doing. I'm sitting in a vehicle, whether I'm sitting in a chair, whether I'm getting up and down stairs, going in and out of hallways, going through doorways, squeezing through tight spots. I know it works because I've tried it.
Mm-hmm. So Todd, what would you say is a good evolution in owning a handgun? And I think mainly we're talking about handguns here, right? This is because I think it takes more mastery to learn a handgun and be good at it and shoot while you're moving and so forth. What is a good evolution process, right? From when you first purchase a gun, where do you start, and then where should you evolve to? And I mean, if you really want to be a competent concealed carrier, which we'll talk more about later.
Yeah. So the first things first, go to your fundamental course, your grip stance, slide alignment, trigger squeeze. Most people call it like a handgun 1 class or an introduction to handgun. Go to that particular class and get that done. Master those skills. Okay. When I say master, you should be able to do them without thinking. You should get it down so many reps that you are able to do it without even, like I said, without even thinking. Then start looking into your advanced classes that involve your moving and involve your manipulating of the firearm in different angles and around barricades and all that kind of stuff, just to make your potential for surviving all this stuff that much better. That, and make sure you do some type of physical fitness training. What people don't understand is that when you get under stress, your heart rate's going to elevate 60 to 90 beats per minute.
Wow.
You know, if you think about that, if
That's
your
like a
resting
cardio
heart
workout.
rate is 60 and you crank up another 90, you're already at 150.
Yeah.
So
I remember a course you did where there was an obstacle between me and the person. Of course, it's just a, it's an object in the range, but I think you told me it was another person. And so you can't shoot that guy to get, you know what I mean? So it's really mentally taxing as well as physically taxing, because not only do you have to physically know where to move and how to kind of protect yourself, but you got to realize, look, I can only kill the bad guy here, because if I shoot anybody else, the cops are really going to get on my case.
First, do no harm.
$2.4 million for a wrongful death lawsuit. That's about what it's going right now.
Yeah, nobody needs that.
No.
Well, I think the problem that we have is a lot of people will watch a movie and they'll think, "Oh, this is how I do it."
John Wick, right?
John Wick, right? Or they'll watch a movie and they'll think, "Oh, a gunfight is just like a duel from the old days."
No,
it's not. You don't stand there in the middle of the city in Tombstone at high noon waiting for someone to flinch, right? It happens so fast. I was watching videos last night and of civilians caught in a scenario where there was an active shooter, and I'm just like, hot dang, if you don't react quickly and have some training, you're in so much danger.
Well, I think if you can, you get online and watch the police officer body cam videos, right? That's obviously real world, and that's where you can see, okay, I have no idea what I would have done in this situation. I think that's at least a bit of an eye opener as to what you might expect if you carry and you plan on using it. And we can talk about that. I think we're going to talk more about that in our next segment, right? But yeah, for me, just to kind of tell you a little bit of my evolution, I'm calling it an evolution because, I mean, it's taken me probably 20 years to get where I'm at. And, there's been times when I've been absolutely stagnant and other times when I've made leaps and bounds, like in the last couple of years. If you're not moving forward, you're falling behind, right? If you think you're maintaining, you're not, you're losing, right? So, and for me, it's very important. I've got family to take care of, and obviously being the father and the one who is committed to doing that. This is something I want to do. I desire to do, right? It's not something I'm going to shun and say, oh, the police are going to protect me, right? They're going to take care of my family. I've got my phone. I can call 911, right? No, I don't necessarily agree with any of that. Obviously, I'm still going to call 911 as needed, right?
Yeah.
But I'm definitely my first line of defense for myself, my family, and those who are around me. And that's in our next segment. We talk more about that. Yeah. But my evolution has been from being very timid to become very confident, to where, if I don't have a round in the chamber now, I'm nervous. Like, oh, dang it. Am I going to have time? So I'll go back to my vehicle, whatever, and put it around in the chamber. And at first, you're very nervous. I'm not carrying. You kidding me? I'm not carrying with a round in the chamber. That's scary, right? It is very much mindset, to where, like you're saying, if your heart rate doubles within a few seconds, and I know myself well enough to know, for the most part, what is going to happen when I get into a stressful situation. Yes, my mind goes foggy. My vision goes tunnel vision, and that's where training, like you said, that's where training comes in, so that you can train that away, and you know what to expect for the most part, and how you're going to perform, and all that good stuff. I mean, it's a huge conversation, but I had just started on YouTube, right? And I think it's a good place to start.
Sure.
I don't know if you'd agree. downloading information from the matrix about, like you say, all the basics, trigger pull, grip, all that kind of stuff. There's some good information online that where you can start, but it definitely doing it in person with a trainer who can really shorten that process has been so valuable to me. Me shooting with you, Todd, I think I've gained so much knowledge and experience just actually getting out there doing it instead of just shooting paper, right? Putting holes through paper, which, like you said, Paris, is important. I got to go do it at least every couple of weeks, just for the muscle memory, for a lot of different reasons. But I've gotten to the point where I need to step up my training if I'm going to move forward. Otherwise, I'm just going backwards.
Yep. Well, that's the reality of all this stuff. It's like, as long as you're progressing forward, that's fine. And like you said, there's going to be times when you're going to make these huge leaps, but then there's going to be times it's like, dude, that was such a baby step, and that's all that I can get. Okay, cool.
As long as you recognize forward.
Right? Yeah. And I have people all the time tell me, hey, I don't feel comfortable carrying with one in the chamber. Okay, let me just show you a couple things. And then you start to realize, oh, okay, that's another step that I got to do to get into my draw stroke and everything else. And then, just like everything, knowledge is power. If you know and understand what the laws are in your area and how your district attorney is going to prosecute and who they're arresting for shootings and stuff like that, that knowledge makes it so much easier for you to make that decision whether or not you're going to press that trigger or not. And developing that stuff now. Okay, where's my line in the sand for a threat to my family? Where's that line in this sand for a threat to me? Where's that line in the sand for a threat to someone that I don't know? Where am I drawing that line? And if you already have a rough idea of where that sits within your life, then all of a sudden you can go, okay, this makes it real easy for me to add this little variable to it, or that little variable, or, don't carry stuff in your right hand. If you're a right-handed shooter, carry stuff in your left hand. It's pretty simple.
And then learn those basics so well, like you say, so it becomes natural. And that, for me, has given me a lot of confidence in carrying, in that I know exactly where that trigger breaks, and I've practiced it so many times in dry fire practice as well at the range, how I'm going to grip the gun, how I'm going to present the gun, everything. I mean, it really becomes automatic, and you can do this in your basement. You can sit in your basement, aim at something on the wall, and practice over and over and over again until it becomes just automatic. And that, for me, has brought so much confidence to where I'm to the point, like I say, unless I have one chambered, I don't feel comfortable.
And just to remind everybody, when he's saying he's shooting in his basement, it's called dry fire. No bullets that are actually being.
Did I not say that? Did I not say I'm dry firing?
Well, you did, but it was like dry fire was like 30 seconds before you said that. And I just was making sure if people,
or you can use snap caps.
You can use like snap caps
to come in on camera. It won't come. There we go.
There you go.
Use your laser bullets. Literally, it's sitting right here at my desk.
Yeah, those are cool. You can buy them. I bought one set for my AR. I bought another set of 9mm, those laser ones for my handgun. So you can buy all different calibers of those laser sights. Those are fun they're great. One of the things that I think is important on a regular basis as well, and it's right along this line, Shane, is just pulling their gun out and getting it into place and then putting it back. Pulling it out, putting it in place, and then
drawing stroke.
That draw stroke is super important. And then knowing how, like you said, how the trigger works. Because one of the things that I've realized is, and you and I worked on this at the range the other day, Shane, is when I was shooting way to the right or left, and it's because I was pulling, instead of pulling straight back with my finger was pulling to the right or to the left. And I ended up, those are just simple little techniques that you don't know until you've done it 100 times first. And then you're like, wait a minute.
1,000 times.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that then you do it 1,000 times and then you actually get
10,000 times
to the point where you're like, okay, I think I finally starting to get this.
But let me say, I don't have any of those laser toys. I've never used them. I'm still kind of hesitant on getting one of them. Yeah, I'd probably helped me improve. But I've done so much, like you say, you dry firing, you see this is safe, it's empty, right? No magazine. You practice finding the break of that trigger.
Yep.
Where it resets. And I'm probably easier for me to hold it this way, right? The reset.
Yep.
Where it breaks. And you're practicing this and you're learning exactly how your gun works and practicing that drawing stroke, and just continue to practice it. Bring it up into your sight. So that becomes automatic too. Bringing it up into your sights. It just becomes automatic. And you don't really even have to aim at a certain point. You're looking at your threat and it just comes up into sight.
Point and shoot works.
And it does, as long as you're not shooting from the hip, right down here, like from the hip, right?
That
don't used to be a technique that the police used to train with. Yeah, it was pretty funky, shooting from the hip.
We used to do it from 15 yards, and you had to hit the target. If you missed, you got disqualified.
And you like get down in the squat, and you're like, shooting. I forget the name of the individual who developed that, but he was an absolute hot shot. He was amazing, and yeah, it was bad technique.
Well, that actually started out with Wyatt Earp.
Oh, did it? Yeah.
Yeah. Way back in the day.
Yeah.
Going back to Tombstone, guys.
Yep.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Learn the modern day techniques, right?
Yes.
And get on some. There's some really good YouTubers that teach good techniques, and there's some that don't. So that takes a little bit of searching to find some quality people. But we could recommend some, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, regardless of where you're at in the world, there's plenty of firearms instructors that are out there. Just look into their background, read their bio, see what they're all about, and see what type of training they actually do. I tell people all the time, I'm 200 yards on in. If you want something that's beyond 200 yards, I'm the wrong guy. You need to have somebody else that specializes in something other than that.
What are some things that they need to look for in choosing someone to train with? Like, what would you say are the core things they need to make sure they have?
Number one is that they understand how a firearm works, and they understand the full ramifications of getting involved and pressing the trigger on a human being. Okay, because there's a court proceeding that's going to happen. There's a police investigation that's going to happen. There's a attorney investigation that's going to happen. There's so many little tiny investigations that are going to happen. And if any one of those figure out or find out or decide that, hey, this was not a justified shooting, now you've got major problems.
And that usually means that, like yourself, former police, former military, who have extensive experience. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to find someone with that kind of experience. There are other people out there, but typically those people who have been rangers, been to special forces, have gone on to create their own business and firearms training. And there's a lot of great people out there, and military and police services as well.
I think one of the things I respect about your training, Todd, is that every time we shoot, we take time to figure out, okay, now let's pretend that I'm a police officer. What are you going to tell me? And we actually articulate every time we do it, what I would say or what I think I should say. And then you help me and guide direct, say, hey, what you said was perfect. Or, hey, you know what, try it saying it this way. And then I actually say it. I repeat it back because it's got to come. I got to say it out loud. Otherwise, it doesn't seem to stick as well. So I really appreciate that about your training. I think that's a really good point. If you're going to go and have somebody train you, especially if they're going to be a concealed carry instructor of some kind, really make sure that you understand the legal aspect. And then I know you said too that there's just personally, like the adrenaline rush, like if you can for a minute, just kind of after you've done that, like what is that really like? What should someone do to kind of calm back down? What should they expect?
The dynamics of being involved in armed encounters, you have what's called an adrenaline dump. And those of you that are adrenaline junkies or like to do stuff that kind of give you a thrill, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But essentially what will happen, you're going to get an elevated heart rate. You're going to get tunnel vision. You're going to get auditory exclusion and all that kind of stuff. But the realities are that trying to come down from that is extremely hard. And usually it's about 16 to 18 hours before the human body will start to push out that adrenaline and allow you to start to come down. Essentially, if I were to relate it to coffee, it's like you pounding 12 cups of espresso, not just coffee, 12 cups of espresso in one drink that literally takes you a millisecond to do it. And now you're going to sit there and ride that until your body's able to process all that out.
Wow.
One of the things that is very common, people will urinate themselves, they'll defecate themselves, they'll throw up. And that's totally normal to go through that type of stuff. It's so normal that literally in my tack bags, I used to carry an extra pair of underwear and an extra pair of pants just in case something like that happened to me or one of my guys.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so knowing and understanding what's going to happen with the human body is a huge part of it. And that's why the physical conditioning stuff, and I'm not saying you have to look like the Statue of David at all. Just make sure that your heart and your lungs and your cardiovascular system can handle the load that you're going to put on your body, because you're going to spike probably in the neighborhood of about 150 to 180 beats per minute just in your heart rate, and if you've got blood clots and all that kind of stuff, you could break those loose and end up stroking out. There's so many different ways that not being in some type of physical condition can cause you those problems. And let's face it, if you don't survive that part, what was it for?
Yeah.
Well, I know we only have a few minutes left here. I got a quick question for you, Todd. I was thinking, there are a lot of people that probably getting handguns, getting into this because of video games, right?
Oh yeah.
And so a lot of that is CQB, close quarters combat, close quarters battle, and that's completely very different than just concealed carry, right?
Yeah.
That's obviously very different, but it is exciting, it's fun, and I know you do that kind of training as well. At what level do you think it's appropriate to really get into that type of CQB training? Is it really any good for most people? Is it something I should really even think about coming doing CQB with you? Because obviously clearing your house can be a very dangerous thing. And typically you want to leave that to the professionals.
Yeah, it's funny. My buddy Mike Pannone put out a great video the other day, and mind you, I love CQB. I've got over 3,000 tactical entries under my belt already. Let alone the training side of stuff. But in reality, I'm going to do just like Mike said. I'm going to run to my family and I'm going to take care of the problem.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to come down to. I highly recommend that you at least take. That's why we name our courses Home Defense CQB, but we name them specifically that because we want you to be able to move from one location to another within your home. And within your home, that allows you to sit there and figure out what the angles are, what the distances are, what kind of barriers are in your way, where the furniture is, where the light switches are. One of the funniest things that I ever did teaching in an actual live fire house that we have full capabilities of lights and everything else. Everybody's like, well, which flashlight technique do I got to use this flashlight? And I got this flashlight. I got to use this. I go, 1 foot from a doorway, there's always a freaking light switch.
Yeah.
Turn the lights on. They're like, oh, this is so simple.
But that's why we get all these fun things on our guns, right?
Oh, exactly.
Then why have it? And there are some trainers out there. I say, lights on guns are silly. Okay, that's to be debated, right? But
they're needed.
Yeah.
Well, I think it comes down to mindfulness over marketing, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All the marketing in the world doesn't matter.
Mm-mm.
If this makes sense, do it. If there's a light switch, flip it, right?
Yes.
And as in prepping, we talk about this all the time. Ready mindfulness. Keeping a plan in your quiver all the time on the different scenarios you're going to face.
Yeah.
Whether it's a tornado, whether it's an active shooter, whether it's I've got to clear my house, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, that plan is going to go to pot if you've never actually practiced it.
Yeah.
And that's the mindfulness part of it. That's the ready-minded side of it. And so for those of you guys who've just been tuning in, we've been talking with one of our good friends, Todd Nielsen, with Nielsen Training. He's what, 20, how many years in police before you?
25 years in law enforcement, 17 years as a tactical operator.
There you go. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Basically,
Operator,
I'm
real
qualified
operator.
to teach you. Yeah.
He's a smooth operator. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be with us. This has been awesome and very informative. Guys, if you want to learn more, head on over to nielsentraining.com, NIELSEN, not to be confused with all the other weird ways to spell it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Right? No offense to anyone who spells theirs different, but nielsentraining.com. And you also have a couple other things going on YouTube, a bunch of other training courses that sounds like you're compiling all those into Nielsen Training.
Oh,
But,
yeah. We've
thank
got
you
a
so
lot
much.
of stuff that's coming down the pipe. Just follow us on socials and follow us at Ready Gunner, and you'll get the gist of everything that's going on.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Hey guys, if you're interested in getting better at all things preparedness, make sure you check out our website, preppertalkradio.com. Yes. We've got links to all these things. We've got our YouTube channel, and also check out our different vendors that we work with. One of my favorites, Survival Frog. We talk about their food all the time. It's delicious, pre-cooked, stored for 25 years. You're good to go. But they've also got cool things, and this is right out of my get-home bag. It's a dry bag. Keep the things dry that you need. It's ultra lightweight. Check it out. Go over to survivalfrog.com. Click on their entire shop. They've got a ton of stuff, and use the code PrepperTalk. We get a little tiny commission on that, but you get to save an extra 10% at checkout. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being part of the Prepper Talk family, the Prepper Talk Nation. And until next time, stay ready-minded.
See you next week.
Take care, guys.